building abstractions with functions, the acts of the mind wherein it exerts its power over simple ideas are chiefly these three. First, combining several simple ideas into one compound one, and thus all complex ideas are made. Second, the second is bringing two ideas, whether simple or complex, whether together, and setting them by one another so as to take a view of them at once without uniting them into one, by which it gets all its ideas of relations. Third, the third is separating them from all other ideas that accompany them in their real existence. This is called abstraction, and thus all its general ideas are made. John Locke, An Essay Concerning Human Understanding, 1690. We are about to study the idea of a computational process. Computational processes are abstract beings that inhabit computers. As they evolve, processes manipulate other abstract things called data. The evolution of a process is directed by a pattern of rules called a program. People create programs to direct processes. In effect, we conjure the spirits of the computer with their spells. Computational process is indeed much like a sorcerer's idea of a spirit. It cannot be seen or touched. It is not composed of matter at all. However, it is very real. It can perform intellectual work. It can answer questions. It can affect the world by disbursing money at a bank or by controlling a robot arm in a factory. The programs we use to conjure processes are like sorcerer's spells. They're carefully composed from symbolic expressions in arcane and historic programming languages that prescribe the task we want our processes to perform. A computational process in a correctly working computer executes programs precisely and accurately. Thus, like the sorcerer's apprentice, novice programmers must learn to understand and to anticipate the consequence of their conjuring. Even small errors, usually called bugs in programs, can have complex and unanticipated consequences. Fortunately, learning to program is considerably less dangerous than learning sorcery because the spirits we deal with are conveniently contained in a secure way. Real world programming, however, requires care, expertise, and wisdom. A small bug in a computer aided design program, for example, can lead to catastrophic collapse of an airplane or a dam or the self-destruction of an industrial robot. Master software engineers have the ability to organize programs so that they can be reasonably sure that the resulting processes will perform the task intended. They can visualize the behavior of their systems in advance. They know how to structure programs so that unanticipated problems do not lead to catastrophic consequences. And when problems do arise, they can debug their programs. Well designed computational systems, like well designed automobiles or nuclear reactors, are designed in a modular manner so that the parts can be constructed, replaced, and debugged separately. Programming in JavaScript. We need an appropriate language for describing processes, and we will use for this purpose the programming language JavaScript. Just as our everyday thoughts are usually expressed in our natural language, such as English, Swedish, or Chinese, and descriptions of quantitative phenomena are expressed with mathematical notation, our procedural thoughts will be expressed in JavaScript. JavaScript was developed in 1995 as a programming language for controlling the behavior of worldwide web browsers through scripts that are embedded in web pages. The language was conceived by Brendan Eich, originally under name Mocha, which was later renamed LiveScript, and finally to JavaScript. The name JavaScript is a trademark of Oracle Corporation. Despite its inception as a language for scripting the web, JavaScript is a general purpose programming language. A JavaScript interpreter is a machine that carries out processes described in the JavaScript language. The first JavaScript interpreter was implemented by Eich at Netscape Communication. For Netscape Navigator web browser, JavaScript inherited its core features from the Scheme and self-programming languages. Scheme is a dialect of Lisp and was used as the programming language for the original version of this book. From Scheme, JavaScript inherited its most fundamental design principles such as lexical scope, first-class functions, and dynamic typing. JavaScript bears only superficial resemblance to the language Java, after which it was eventually named. Both Java and JavaScript use the block structure of the language C, in contrast with Java and C, which usually employ compilation to lower level languages. JavaScript programs were initially interpreted by web browsers. After Netscape Navigator, other web browsers provided interpreters for the language, including Microsoft's Internet Explorer, whose JavaScript version is called JScript. The popularity of JavaScript for controlling web browsers gave rise to standardization effort, culminating in ECMA script. The first edition of the ECMA script standard was led by Guy Lewis and completed in June 1997. The sixth edition, known as ECMA Script 2015, was led by Allen and adopted by the General Assembly of ECMA in June 2015. The practice of embedding JavaScript programs in web pages encouraged the developers of web browsers to implement JavaScript interpreters. As this program became more complex, the interpreters become more efficient in executing them, eventually using sophisticated implementation techniques such as just-in-time compilation. The majority of JavaScript programs as of this writing, 2021, are embedded in web pages and interpreted by browsers, but JavaScript is increasingly used as a general-purpose programming language, using systems such as Node.js. ECMA Script 2015 possesses a set of features that make it an excellent medium for studying important programming constructs and data structures, and for relating them to the linguistic features that support them. Its lexical scope, first-class functions, and their syntactic support through lambda expressions provide direct and concise access to functional abstraction, and dynamic typing allows the adaptation to remain close to the scheme original throughout the book. Above and beyond these considerations, programming in JavaScript is great fun. The elements of programming. A powerful programming language is more than just a means for instructing a computer to perform tasks. The language also serves as a framework within which we organize our ideas about processes. Thus, when we describe a language, we should pay particular attention to the means that the language provides for combining simple ideas to form more complex ideas. Every powerful language has three mechanisms for accomplishing this: primitive expressions, which represent the simple entities the language is concerned with; means of combination, by which the compound elements are built from simpler ones; and means of abstraction, by which compound elements can be named and manipulated as units. In programming, we deal with two kinds of elements: functions and data. Later, we will discover that they are really not so distinct. Informally, data is stuff that we want to manipulate, and functions are descriptions of the rules for manipulating the data. Thus, any powerful programming language should be able to describe primitive data and primitive functions, and should have methods for combining and abstracting functions and data. In this chapter, we will deal only with simple numerical data so that we can focus on the rules for building functions. In later chapters, we will see that these same rules allow us to build functions to manipulate compound data as well. Expressions. One easy way to get started at programming is to examine some typical interactions with an interpreter for the JavaScript language. You type a statement, and the interpreter responds by displaying the result of its evaluating that statement. One kind of statement you might type is an expression statement, which consists of an expression followed by a semicolon. One kind of primitive expression is a number. More precisely, the expression that you type consists of the numerals that represent the number in base 10 if you present JavaScript with a program.